Hello everyone, I'm Stephen, one of the account managers here, and we welcome you to our presentation today on the license to skill and the demonstration from David and Camille. Just a few bit of housekeeping before we go through everything. Everyone will stay on mute today, and with that, we can just remain on mute throughout the session. If you do have any questions throughout, please add them into the chat, and unless they're technical, we'll answer them at the end during the Q&A. Let me just share my screen for you. Start. There we go, share.
Yep, got that, Stephen.
Yep, perfect. So, as mentioned, you'll stay on mute. Q&A will be at the end or in the chat. And please don't forget to either follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We're all active on there, and any feedback would be much appreciated. So, my name is Stephen. I'm one of the account managers here at ILX, and I look after public sector mainly, but I do handle corporate as well. And I'll pass over to Dave to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Stephen. So my name's David. I'm the head of the customer success team here, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the capability and competency assessment today. So I'll look to Camille.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name's Camille. I also work in the customer success team, and I'm going to be providing you with some context on our e-learning today. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that, guys. So here's the agenda. As you can see, we're talking about the license to skill, which I'll be covering, and then I'll be passing over to Dave and Camille for the next part, which is our e-learning portal and the skills gap assessment tool. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So in today's climate, everyone, whether you're public sector, corporate, are facing real difficulties with budgets and also really maintaining staff and bridging the skills gap. Some of the areas that I noticed are supply chain issues, which really conflict growth within organizations and also don't really focus on anything into progressing workforce development, bridging the skills gap, and then bring everything back to what they need to obviously make sure talent issues are fixed and that they're not having to do a lot of churn. And that's the reason why the license to skill is a good tool for you guys because it helps, and I'll go further into that shortly. Let's move on. There we go. So some of the tools that we do here at ILX, we really help you drive and deliver projects into key initiatives, help drive innovation and creativity, and we've really streamlined processes to help people more productive in their roles. And the way we do that is we have consultancy available, we have really in-depth Teams calls, phone calls, and really make sure that we really understand your requirement before talking solutions. We don't just want to speak to you and then not really help you. We want to make sure we are delivering the successful projects, understanding your pain points, and really helping with it. There we go. The reasons why people should consider license to skill is it's one PO, less admin. A lot of people that speak to us that use this solution, they have pain points which are such as admin, a lot of lost invoices because they're trying to speak in so many different suppliers. But with the license to skill, you speak to one supplier, it helps have fixed pricing for the whole 12 months, which means from the first date of invoice to the following 12 months, you have fixed pricing off our website prices. And with that as well, you don't have to select a certain amount. So say, for example, your budget is only 10,000, we would work with you for a package that suits your budget. We don't say, oh, give us 20,000 over budget. We work with you, not against you. And what it does is as well, we have hands-on people such as Dave and Camille who will really help support you and make the journey for the learners, not only the booker, more successful. And what this does is as well, it helps improve flexibility. So for example, one organization that I work with, they had to have a delegate rescheduled just because of work issues. It wasn't an issue at all. Because they were on the license to skill, they get that a little free reschedule included, because we know work demands, flexibility is needed. And then we also want to make sure you can see us as a partner, not just a company that you work with. We want to build on the relationship with you. And that's why the license to skill option is very useful. And it helps return investment, because as mentioned, you have a set budget. You also have the fixed pricing for the 12 months, but it's a discount price and you can get more for your money. We boost learner engagement because we have an LMS system which you can manage everything and work with people to make sure people are doing their e-learning, their training, everything like that. And you can see what parts they're doing, what parts they're not doing, and you can drive them to do it. With ILX, obviously, we cover a wide range of portfolio, from project management, program, portfolio management, IT, Lean Six Sigma, MSP, management of risk, business analysis, professional skills such as like communication skills, relationship building, all wide ranges. And we've recently taken into Stay Ahead, which is our IT partner, which covers stuff like Java, Power Automating, Microsoft. So there's a wide range of portfolios that the budget can be spent on. Here's all our delivery methods, such as e-learning, virtual, classroom, and blended. But with the license to skill, a lot of people go towards the e-learning because it helps with budgets and you'll get more for your money. And the way that will be demonstrated by Dave and Camille shortly, it will show you how the e-learning works, how we really drive user with this. And then it's accessible on all the courses available there, such as I mentioned, from the project to the program to the agile to change. Everything's all available on these delivery methods. And the way they'd be arranged is via your account manager, because with the license to skill, you have a direct point of contact. Say, for example, it's my region, it would be myself or a vertical manager, and you would speak to them, they'll be your point of contact. You would just handle everything with them. That's not speaking to multiple departments, it's speaking to one direct point of contact, which is the benefit as well. So I'm just going to pass over to Camille now, who will walk you through.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to share my screen now, so do bear with me just one moment while I do this. Okay, lovely. So thank you so much again, Stephen. So as Stephen just mentioned, the e-learning is a great route for our learners, and it does actually tend to be one of the most popular paths that people choose to take for their learning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch upon a little bit of our e-learning today and give you some further context. But first, I just want to highlight our portfolio of courses. So we have a large range of courses available. These are a mixture of accredited and non-accredited courses. So they generally take around 12 to 15 hours of study for, say, a foundation level. And then we have approximately 20 hours of study for a practitioner level. So it's a bit of a variation there. There's also the majority of these courses do actually lead to a formal qualification should the learner choose to go down that path. So they can sit the corresponding certification exam and therefore get the certification required for that course. They don't have to do that, but it's just an option should they wish to. They can still study the course without taking that method if they would like to. What you can actually see is a large range of courses, but I want to highlight some of our most popular titles for you. So we actually have the Prince 2.7 Foundation course just here. We have the Prince 2.7 Practitioner, so you may be familiar with those, quite large names at the moment. We have Prince 2 Agile. We also have, a different examining body. So we've got various examining bodies. So we have the APM PMQ. We've also got the APM PFQ as well. So you just take your eyes up here for me. So there's quite a large range. There's even change management as well. That's a very popular one at the moment. The world is ever changing. So change management is definitely something people are quite interested in at the moment. If people do want to find out a little bit more about a course, they've always got our website, but while they're actually within the portal, they can click onto a course tile. This is going to bring up a mini menu for them. So you can see here we have the course overview, so about the course. It goes over the material that's actually covered, the duration. It can vary, so this one's 10 to 12 hours for the Change Management Foundation. We can actually just scroll along on these as well. So if we go on to learning objectives, it's going to list the available learning objectives within that course. Of course, it changes with every course that you go into, so it's ideal that it lists it here. You have what's included, so that's just giving them a little bit of an understanding about the 12-month license, the full ILX tutor support that's available, and I will go into that in a little bit more detail when we jump into a course and give you that demonstration. There's also some exam information. So I mentioned how learners can choose to take the path where they go for a certification exam for their formal qualification. It's not necessary, but it is necessary with some of the courses, such as people cert courses, and I'm sure most of you are aware of that, but it just does give them a little bit of that exam information just here. So it always tends to be remote proctor, and there's various technical requirements for each examining body. So we always make sure to include a link just so that learners can get a little bit more information on that should they need to. There's also another way to look into courses as well. So of course you can click on the actual tile and get that overview that I've just demonstrated to you now. You can also use this little search bar up here. So it's the top left corner. And what we can do is we can pop in a keyword. So if I type in finance, you'll notice it's going to bring up the courses or modules that are related to that keyword. So from there, perhaps you want to click in and get more of an overview. What I'm going to do now is I've discussed a little bit about the courses, so the non-accredited courses and the accredited courses, and showed you a little bit of the range. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Dave, who's actually going to discuss a little bit more about the capability modules available.
Thanks, Camille. So, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about a different style of learning we've got, which is through our capability license. And capability or competency modules are more bite-sized learning sessions. So effectively what you have is a lot of people that in your organization who are going to want to do a full accredited course, maybe Prince 2, maybe ITIL, maybe change management like Camille's just shown you. But what you may also have is a large proportion of your workforce who don't necessarily need a full accreditation, but they just need some training in specific areas. And they also may not have the availability to commit to 12, 15 hours of e-learning or two or 3 days in a classroom. So we've got this availability to have bite-sized learning through our capability and competency modules. The ones that are shown on the screen now, you can see they say capability or competency with them. These last anywhere between kind of 20 minutes to an hour, and they are on specific subject areas. So it may be around leadership, conflict management, team management, reviews, scheduling management. As you can see on the screen at the moment, I'm just kind of reading a few titles there. But what they are is more specific bite-sized learning. So with the license to skill, think of it as a bit of a pick and mix, really. What you've got a large workforce, a large departmental teams, and what you can do is you can hopefully find learning and development that will fit across that entire team. So you may have some, as I said earlier, that want to do a specific course, but others that may not be sure which course they want to go into. Now, you can have all of these titles if you were to purchase what we describe as an enterprise license, or all of the capability modules if you purchased a capability license. But you don't have to necessarily do it that way. Maybe that you just want to purchase a selection of them based on your sector or depends on what your needs are. So as Camille showed you at the moment, there are a significant amount of them, over 100 capability modules and over 40 full accredited courses. But it is possible to reduce that down depending on your needs. And as Stephen said in his presentation, we kind of look to work with you, not against your budget. So we'll work with what your budget's available and try and make sure that it works across. So the first thing you're going to probably look at is this is quite overwhelming. Seeing this volume of courses and this volume of learning is quite overwhelming. How would you, as an individual, know which course is applicable to you? How would your team know? Say you're a line manager, how would you know which courses to apply to your team? Because you may have a real variety of experience in your team. Some people that are very new to projects or working in your specific team, some people that are quite experienced, and some people that are kind of in the middle with no formal training. In those instances, we have our assessment tool. So our assessment tool is available on the left-hand side that Camille's just clicking on at the moment. The assessment tool allows you to answer 27 questions based on your knowledge and theory over 27 competencies. Now, these competencies are mapped to the APM framework. So the reason we use the APM framework is because we might find that the most applicable to most of our learners, really. You know, we find it's the one that fits across the vast majority of sectors. You know, this is what they look like. So Camille's already answered the majority of questions because it's kind of we want to show you how it works rather than starting from scratch and having you watch us answer 27 questions. This is competency number 26. This is about capability development. There's a brief description there and an introduction to what capability development is, which is fantastic. And then it asks you to score yourself between 1 and 5. 1 being you're very new, very green to that particular area, so as you can say, it's aware. Scaling all the way up to 5, which is saying you're an expert in that. Generally, what you're going to find is knowledge is always higher than application, or you'd hope it is anyway, in most occasions. So we've answered that question now, and then we've got another competency around benefits management. So we're going to finish the assessment now. So we're going to answer those questions. So Camille scored herself, and what it's going to give me is an output. It's going to condense my learning options down. So let's say, for example, I as an individual have a portal like this that has access to a multitude of courses like the ones Camille's just shown us. I don't know which of those are going to be most applicable to me. So what I've now done is I have selected a specific role at the top, as you can see. So Camille selected that she's a portfolio manager, or she wishes to be a portfolio manager. You will select a role that you do, or one that's closely aligned to what you wish to achieve. And then I've answered the 27 competencies. And what it's saying to me is that I've got 18% knowledge gap. So basically, in order to become a well-rounded intermediate portfolio manager, I have got 18% knowledge gap. Camille, if you can just change that to maybe a program manager, master, or anything like that, it'll give me a different knowledge gap. So it'll give me a different output and tell me this is my knowledge gap now. These are the courses that are going to be most suggested for that. So as you can see, just loading up now. That one's similar, so it's still giving me 18% knowledge gap. So for that one, it's probably just an intermediate. If we go for maybe so if PMO administrator, it's telling me I've got a 10% gap, and it will change according to that. So if you take it back, just to a advanced project manager, that's perfect. So what it's given me on the on the right-hand side is my skill gaps and recommended modules. Now these are the modules that are suggested to me to study, which are going to, plug that knowledge gap that I've got. So what I need to do is study those modules basically. So that's only going to give me a smaller kind of list. It might also suggest some courses for me to study. So whatever I've got available in my available learning, it will condense that down. So as you can see, it's saying I've got some financial management modules I need to go over, some leadership management, conflict management, and then it also has got, if you scroll down, Camille, have we got any full courses on there? Yeah, so it's come up with the PPS course is the best one that's going to be available to me, applicable to me. So both levels of PPS. So it's not saying to me I've got to study all of those courses. What it's saying to me is what I would recommend by studying these courses, I'm going to fill that 30% knowledge gap I've got. I can look into this in a bit more detail. So it's Camille clicking on details now. It gives me my results in a a nice bar chart, so it kind of visually gives me some prompts on that. So I think it's what it's saying to me is the green is my knowledge, and the dark blue is my application, and the slightly lighter blue is the gap, basically. So I can see from here where my clear gaps are. So this is the kind of thing that would be great to share with a line manager. So, or anyone that's in your L&D team, and you're looking to assess where's your understanding now, what do you need to plug. And what you can do is you can select a button at the top called email results, and that will send a really nice condensed email through to you with all your results, and you can share that with your line manager. And I would say these are the courses that I think are most applicable to me. Are you happy for me to go and study those and spend some time in my working day dedicated to learning and development? So it helps you kind of that journey for you. Firstly, it's helped you condense what learning you need to do based on your aspirations. And then it's also giving you the opportunity to share information with line managers, with the learning and development teams, just to understand what your needs are. Because as I said earlier, just to reiterate my point, everyone in workforces generally has different needs and different experience levels. If you were to put absolutely everyone in your workforce on a Prince 2 course, for example, there would be major benefit because you'd be aligning your workforce. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the learning journey is over for everyone. It means there might be further experience needed for some people. It might be that there's formal training needed for other people, and that capability assessment just gives that bite-sized learning and helps upskill people quickly and effectively through targeted learning. So hand back to Camille now, who's going to show you a little bit of the e-learning to show you some of the courseware and how all that features and functionality works.
Lovely, thank you very much. So I'm actually going to touch upon the Prince 2 7 Foundation course today, as it's quite a popular one. It's got some good functionalities in there. Functionalities across our courses are generally the same. The odd one or two does change depending on the type of course. There's also, it's worth me mentioning, there are some resources available within every course, and I will go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment, but these do vary as well. APM resources are not going to be relevant for people's cert courses, so that does change as you go into each course. When you open up the course, the initial screen you're going to see is kind of split into two sections. So we have our main course contents and our course overview here. This is where all of the course contents will display for you, and I'll show you that just a moment. We also have a left-hand side functionality bar. So there's some really key features here that I'll go into in a moment also. They do they're pretty self-explanatory, but I do just want to touch upon sort of the key ones that are available to learners. There's lots of different learning methods and styles, as Dave has mentioned. Everyone does sort of learn differently. So we wanted to include all of the tools to set everyone for success. How they utilize them is entirely up to them. When we're looking at the main course contents, we have bite-sized sessions, you can think of them as. So generally, it takes around 25 minutes to an hour for each session. The reason we've broken it up like this is because it's much easier for learners to manage their studies this way. They're able to sort of separate it slightly for themselves. They may say, okay, week 1, perhaps I want to complete session 1 and session 2, and so on. As they go through the weeks, eventually they'll reach the end session and they've completed the course and studied it in full. We've got some key things such as the play button, resume if they've been into it before, and then their completion bar, just to give them a little bit of an idea of where they're at within their learning. I'm just going to press play. And you'll see now, I'm just going to mute that just up there. You can't hear him, but there is a gentleman speaking at me. So our courses are animation and narration based. So currently what's happening on screen is a picture is being painted for me. And when you don't mute the man that speaks at you, or the lady, as it's dual gendered, he helps to break down that for you. That's just covering some of those learning methods that we've talked about. Some people are visual learners, some people prefer to have someone sort of speaking at them. It really does vary. So we like to include all of the resources for everyone. I'm just letting that play out a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it on to the next slide just so you can see how every single page is different to keep up the user engagement. There's often going to be a lot of interactive elements, so you're going to need to drag and drop things into folders, and you're going to have people speaking at you and you need to click certain things. So it's just worth highlighting that every page is quite different. Learners can actually use another sort of learning technique as they go through the course, which I'll highlight now. I know Dave always makes the joke of he watches Netflix with the subtitles on. So if I could just take your eyes over to the left-hand side, we have this subtitles feature here. So learners are absolutely able to open that subtitle page, and any of the text that is currently being spoken on this page is going to be displayed here. As you move on, it will automatically change. So nice and easy for learner, nothing really they need to do there. It's just an added method should they want to reinforce that learning. I personally use it in a slightly different way. If I'm struggling with a particular area of my course, I like to enlarge the text and I like to focus on particular paragraphs, sentences, things like that. So it's just worth highlighting that. So we've gone through sort of the subtitles feature. I'll just minimize that now and letting the pages play out a little bit more. You can see that as we go on to every page, it's covering a sort of different topic. I'm just going to jump into session 2 because I've come into the overview, but what I want to show you before we move on to some of the functionalities is actually a particular point within every bite-sized session. So excuse me, just skipping through. Around sort of the middle mark towards the end as well, we're going to come across activities. Now, the activities are not going towards any sort of greater mark, but what they are is a moment of pause and reflection for the learner. So it's a really good soft test of their knowledge. All of the activities that you will see in this session, for example, is covering the information that they have just studied. So it's very relevant, it's very applicable, and it's just helping to reinforce their knowledge. I'm just going to randomly answer you one now just to show you how that looks. And of course I got it wrong, but I'm not studying the course, so do keep that in mind. But as you go through, you'll notice that there's different activities. So there's multiple choice, word puzzles, drag and drop, as I've mentioned. There's all sorts of different activities that are available. So the learners can utilize them. They are within every single course and they're within pretty much every single session as long as it's applicable. So it's just worth me highlighting that. If I could just take your eyes over to the left-hand side toolbar, I want to just cover a few functionalities. I won't go through all of them, but I will highlight some really key ones that are going to benefit the learners as they go through their e-learning journey. So one of the most important ones for me personally is actually the accessibility controls. So everyone has different needs. Some people may require some of the accessibility controls as they go through the course. Me personally, and I will sort of show an example of this, I like to move on to the next pages, especially within the exam simulators, by using the arrow key, the right arrow key and the left arrow key on my keyboard. So important for me to highlight that the accessibility controls are within every course. They're there to help the learners however they need them. They don't have to use them, but they're absolutely there if they need them. If we just jump up one to this envelope, it's titled Technical/Tutor Support. So what we have here is a in-pocket expert, I like to think of them as. So of course, we're always here to help ILX. You have the customer success team, as Stephen's mentioned, and we are usually here to help a lot of clients. So you can always reach out to us, and learners can always reach out to us for support. But what I would say is, unfortunately, we've not studied all of the courses that ILX has to offer. It would be pretty impressive if we had. So sometimes these technical and challenging queries do come up for us, and they really do need the eyes of an accredited trainer. So we have a lovely group of support team in our operations team that work alongside with accredited trainers. Now, they're often the accredited trainers that have created these course contents for us, so they're absolutely equipped to answer most questions that come their way. The type of support that they can offer really does vary. So when I'm speaking with learners, I'm always recommending, first of all, I'm recommending try and make your way through the course as much as possible, because often we do answer our own questions and things pop up and they begin to make sense and we start to, solidify our knowledge a little bit more. But if they really are struggling, they always have access to this. It's free of charge, so it's included, you can say. So it's not going to charge them as soon as they contact you to support. And what we can do is give direct help depending on the queries. So some people may just have one or two queries, very, very simple, and it may even just be as simple as, where is this within my course? That tends to be something our support team can answer, very, very quickly. Other times you may get in touch with the tutor support and say, I've gone through my course and I'm absolutely confused with this section, and they all seem to be talking about the same thing. So I think I'm really struggling in a particular area. I need some further support. Perhaps you just need a navigation help. So there's resources always available. Any of the resources that the trainers would give you are already in the course, but perhaps a learner is unaware of how to utilize them or how to navigate to them. So sometimes if you need a little bit more help, the tutors will actually say, rather than going back and forth on emails, what would really benefit you is if we set up a Teams call, perhaps an hour session, where I can share my screen and I can go through your course with you and we can give you that really direct help. So it may not always be like that, but that is a method that is available to them. Everyone's very different. Some people prefer to just discuss things over email. Some people prefer to have that face-to-face connection over a Teams call. So we do really just want to highlight that the tutor support is available for all learners. It's within every course, and you should absolutely utilize it if you're struggling, with a small thing or a more major thing, that we're there to help you in any way we can. I won't give too much on this, but just to highlight, the product tour is always available. I've been into this session before, so usually when you open up the course, it would offer you the product tour, but it didn't offer that to me because I've already been in the course. But just to highlight, learners are always able to go to a product tour as well. So they do actually know how to navigate through the course, and they can get more of an understanding of what each functionality does in deeper detail. You'll notice that it's just listing it here, and it does actually take the time to go through that. Before I just move on to the resources available, as we're in a People Cert course and we're doing Prince 2, it's worth me highlighting that Prince 2 templates are actually available in Prince 2 courses. So your Prince 2 7 Foundation, Prince 2 7 Practitioner, Prince 2 Agile Foundation and Practitioner. What these are a list of templates, documents that can be utilized when leading a Prince 2-led project. So again, I always say to learners, you may think, wow, there's 31 here. I don't need all of these right now, but why not save them for a later date? So if I just click onto one to show you how that actually opens, it usually opens in a Word document format or a PDF format. So learners are able to download the file, print the file. If it's a PDF, it often allows them to draw on the file as well. So it's just worth keeping that in mind. So they can go through and they can save these. Of course, they have access generally to the course for 12 months license period. So they may not need them straight away. They may want to download them straight away. It really does depend on the learner, but just to highlight that's available to them. If I just navigate up, we have the resources. So just close the templates. So resources are available within every single course. I've mentioned how they do change depending on the examining body. So these are very relevant for Prince 2, so People Cert examining body. One I would like to highlight to you, which again is available within every course, is the user guide. So if I just click onto this, it will open up a little mini menu just like this, and then we can open this document. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight the user guide, I'll just scroll up, I've been on this one before, apologies, it's opened up as a PDF. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because, again, some accessibility issues may be there for some learners, and you may be like me and you might actually prefer to work from text a lot of the time. So if someone is, not finding the animation and narration beneficial, they can absolutely navigate to the user guide, and this is pretty much every single bit of text that you will find in the course listed in a document. So from here, they might want to do some further studying, they may want to copy and paste information, or as I mentioned, they may just not be someone that benefits from the animation and narration side of things. So we're really trying to cover all learning methods and learning styles that people would benefit from. So I do want to highlight that that is available within every course. And then moving on to some different resources, again, they vary, but in this one, you can see we've actually got the syllabus, we've got a quick reference guide, we've got some exam top tips. So I have mentioned that People Cert is one of the examining bodies where you do need a corresponding exam voucher. So this is quite relevant for all of the learners taking that course. You'll notice it just gives some top tips. Of course, there's lots more information provided along their journey, but it's just a nice quick reference for them to use if they wish to. And also just to highlight the activity PDF. So I've discussed how there's activities situated throughout the sessions. We're often able to provide the PDF versions of that. Again, if there's someone that doesn't like the sort of animation and narration that comes with it, they can download the activities PDF and work from those documents. In terms of some other really key functionalities, I'll just touch upon them now. For me personally, I'll just jump into, make sure I'm definitely in session 2. I want to highlight the student notes. So you'll notice it says type text here. I'm just going to remove that, pop in a test note and press save. If I now come out of this, bear with me, I just jump to the next session, go on to the notes again, you'll notice my note has disappeared. So what this is session specific course notes for learners. So it's really worth me highlighting that. If we just jump back into the session we were in, our test notes reappeared. This really helps keep all of the learning organized. So, so often putting all of your notes from, if you're completing different sessions every week, but you're putting all of your notes in one place, it can get really hard to stay on top of your studies and manage your notes and sort of see key patterns and trends. So it's worth me highlighting the student notes. Similar to that, we also have the favorites feature. So we can actually add specific pages to favorites. And what we can do is we can just rename it something. So you might actually think, okay, I really need some tutor support. So I'm going to come back to this. I don't actually have time, to discuss that with my tutor today, but I'm going to make a note of it for myself for a future date. You might say, I'm going to save this for further development. I'm, really struggling with this page, but I know I should know this information because I've covered it. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to come back to it and I'm going to do some further development. So there really are a lot of functionalities that are available. We have FAQs as well. So there's some frequently asked questions. They may think I want to utilize that just before I even get to the point of messaging my tutor. I might want to just, go through the FAQs and get an understanding. It's very simple. Just drop down and it will give you the understanding there. So before I sort of stop chewing everyone's ear off about it, I am going to move on to the exam simulator because this is personally one of my favorite functionalities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 4 lines with a tick running through it and open up the exam menu. Now, if a learner does choose to go down the formal qualification route, they may be looking to buy an exam voucher in the future. They may already have an exam voucher. The exam simulator has really been implemented to help get them prepared for that. Ultimately, it's about reducing that exam day anxiety that they might have. So if you're like me, a little bit anxious with certain things, this is really beneficial for that. It gets you familiar with the question types and the formats that are going to come with the certification exam. So for example, we're in the Prince 2.7 Foundation course at the moment. So this exam simulator is actually mimicking that as best as possible without cheating. I always like to highlight that. So much like the certification exam, I'll have 60 multiple choice questions to answer in 60 minutes. So the exam simulator, again, is included in the course. It can be utilized as many times as the learner wishes. I always recommend a minimum of 3 times because the first time it's very new to you, maybe not sure what's really going on with it, how am I navigating through it. Second time, okay, a little bit more of an understanding, but I'm still not very sure. Third time, okay, I'm becoming really familiar with that now. I'm understanding the question types that are coming through, and I'm getting a really good understanding of how this is beneficial for me. And then anything beyond the 3+ is just a massive bonus. What we want to do is set people for success. So by implementing the exam simulator and actually implementing an 80% benchmark pass rate, we're giving them that best chance of success. I always say, don't think anyone goes into an exam hoping for 30 or 40%. We always go in wanting 100 or 80% at the minimum. So that's why we have a benchmark pass rate. Even if it seems a little bit higher than the actual pass rate of the certification exam, it's just giving them that leeway. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate very quickly how the exam simulator works. So we just press into it. Oh, I need to close my FAQs, apologies. A few things to take note of before I sort of show you how the results side of things work is the time remaining. So giving that learner the familiarity of how quickly are they going through the questions? Are they leaving enough time if they're having to skip questions and come back to them? We've got the main question here. We've got all of the answers that they can select and our question set at the bottom. To get to the second page, they just need to navigate through like that. As I mentioned, they can skip questions. They don't have to answer them in order, but we always highly recommend that they do answer them in order. But what I'll do now is I'll just go through and answer a few. To go to the next question, it is this button. But as I mentioned earlier, I do love my accessibility control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the answer I want, and then I'm going to press the right arrow key on my keyboard, and that's just going to take me to the next question. So just to highlight that. As you go through, if you're observant, you might have noticed that actually at the bottom with the question set, the number of the question I've just answered is changing to a light blue colour. A little bit difficult to see on the screen sharing, admittedly, but it is there. Any that I've not answered remain grey for that visual cue for me. I'm going to submit. It's always going to give me this little pop-up if there's unanswered questions. This is the point where I would recommend to learners, please just answer anyway. It's always a bit of a confidence booster if you think I really don't know the answer to that and then you get it right. I'm going to be a really big hypocrite now and I'm going to submit with 51 unanswered questions, so just ignore that. But what we're going to have now is our exam complete page. So this is giving the learner an understanding of how many marks out of the available marks they actually got. So unfortunately, just 1 out of 60 for me. And it's that 2% is just that benchmark pass rate I discussed with you a moment ago. So I'm very far off the 80% that I would need to set myself for success. But what the learner can actually do now is they can press the review button and they can go through their attempt in the moment. So you'll notice there's a lot of red down here, but what I may actually want to do is I may want to say, okay, I want to do some further directed development on these questions. I want to build up my knowledge in particular areas. How can I do that? So what the learners can do is they can press add question to revision pad. Now they can do this with questions they got correct or they got incorrect. I always recommend incorrect so you actually have a tailored revision pad. And what they can then do is navigate to the left-hand side and it's the notepad with the tick running through it, the revision pad, and they can open that up. So once they've gone through all of their exam simulator attempts, all of their questions they've added will pop up here. It's unlimited. They can add as many questions as they like. The only thing I will highlight is if the question's already on the revision pad, it won't allow them to add it, just as we're seeing here. Once they've got their questions in the revision pad from their attempts, they can open them up and it will bring up a little mini menu. A way I like to utilize this is it actually allows you to toggle the correct answer on or off. So I might say to myself, okay, second chance at this question, I'm going to say B. And it was D. So I've got that wrong. So I can keep that on my revision pad and I can do some further development on that. Naturally, if they get it correct, they may think, okay, I'll press the rubbish bin icon and I'll get rid of that from my revision pad now. But if they do keep it on, they want to do that further development. The reason we like to sort of say this is a tailored revision pad is because when you've got 50 or maybe 20, however many questions it is here, you're going to start to spot some trends and patterns within the learning. So there's going to be particular areas where they may just think, okay, planning is coming up quite a lot, or change is coming up quite a lot. There's all these different keywords and areas that are really going to be popping up, and from there they can do some further learning. One of the ways they can do that is they can utilize the course reference at the bottom. So we actually provide a hyperlink where they can click into that and it will take them to a specific section within the course. This allows them to let the page play out, go through the session again, and get more of an understanding of the area that they're struggling on. From there, they may think, okay, I really understand that now, I can remove it from my revision pad, or they may decide to keep it on and do some even further development. They can also navigate through the resources. There may be some resources available in that particular area that will really help solidify their knowledge. Another thing I would like to highlight with the exam simulator is, of course, it's been implemented for people to sort of practice and get ready for their certification exam. But even if they're not taking a certification exam, it is a brilliant tool to solidify any of the learning that they've gone over in their course. So what that's going to do is going to help reinforce everything that they've gone over. Even if they're not taking an exam, it's really good to know where they're at within their learning. Are they understanding all of the concepts, keywords, phrases that are being presented to them? Are they struggling with particular areas? So it can be used even if they're not sitting a certification exam, and I always highly encourage that people do. In a rather large nutshell, and thank you for listening to me sort of harp on a little bit, that is our e-learning style within our courses, and I've covered some of the key support functionalities, how the course actually looks, and the exam simulator as well that everyone can find within their courses. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just come up for just a little bit of air, and we'll move on to some questions. So we'll start our Q&A.
Thanks, Camille. That was a really good overview of the e-learning. Obviously, just as an option, if you were going down, for license to skill or any of our kind of packages, that's kind of the kind of learning you'd be able to see. There was a question on the e-learning from Coral, just asking, how did you get the PDF with the course content on text, please? I don't seem to have that option. So I think that's referring to the user guide. So Camille, do you mind just sharing where the user guide was located again, please?
Yes, of course. Bear with me. Just open up that screen again. Hopefully everyone can see that. So when you're on the course, it's on the left-hand side functionality bar, and we just want to head to the resources tab. So it should look like two little bits of paper, one with a folded corner. It will come up with documents. Usually it's the top one. I do believe it might be slightly different for APM, but it's usually the top document, and it's called User Guide. So this one's Prince2 Project Management Foundation User Guide. If you just press onto that, it then allows you to open this document just over here. So if I press onto that, it will just open up the document. And then from there, the learner can actually print, save, or as I mentioned earlier, they can annotate on the document as well if they want to. Hopefully you are seeing that. And if you're not, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Camille. So, Coral, I hope that answers your question. If anyone else has that question as well. But if you can't find it, please feel free to reach out to us. Just send us an email in, and we'll look into that for you and make sure that you've got. That's fine. We've got a couple more questions as well. Stephen, these are a little bit more dedicated to you, so I'm going to read them out for you. If that's okay.
That's absolutely
fine. So one of the questions is, I'm interested in license skill offering. How do I go about purchasing this my team? Who do I need to speak to?
Yeah, so you can either reach out to myself or one of the account managers here. You can inquire via our website or email it into one of the emails which we have available, which is connectus@ilxgroup.com, and they would then pass it on to your correct account manager.
Perfect. Fantastic. There's another one here. They're saying, does this offer apply to ILX's other learning solutions, for example, consultancy, tailored development programs, or is it just e-learning and public scheduled classroom courses?
No, it applies to absolutely everything. So we have a public sector organisation who works with us on the license to skill. They recently put some consultancy through on this way because it helped with their budgets, and they actually got it through their procurement team a bit quicker by doing it with a license to skill, because of consultancy can be a bit of a niche area within the public sector and a lot of T's and C's around it.
Brilliant, fantastic. I mean, yeah, I think that's the like I alluded to earlier, it's a bit of a pick and mix. I mean, what you want to do, you want to have a conversation with us, give us an understanding of your budget and what you're looking for, and then we can hopefully come up with a solution and work with you to find that.
Exactly.
Is there a deadline for when the license to skill investment needs to be used? So I suppose how long does it last once they purchase it?
Yeah, they have 12 months. You can do a 2-year, 3-year one, but obviously that would be at a point of discussion, depending on the amount X, Y, Z. But yes, it's normally 12 months, but extendable, saying if it's a contract or renewal or anything like that.
That was all the questions we had. So I think I'll just give a shout out if there's any more. Other than that, I suppose, yeah, just thanks for those that viewed today's session. Obviously, it will also be available as a recording. So if you're watching the recording, thanks very much for your time. And we'll leave it there. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone.